Hope you're doing really well today and that you'll find much value in today's Insomnia Insight. If you have felt that you're looking for something to do, something tangible, something to hold on to in the struggle, well, then this video is for you because one of the most common questions I get is, what can I actually do? Then you'll talk about a lot about self-kindness and like learning about this and that, but what can I actually do? What can I hold on to? It's a tricky question, but I really want to try to answer it in this video. And again, hope you'll find much value here. And before we get into it, I want to thank Leah Chablis. I hope I'm not saying that incorrectly, but I want to thank Leah Chablis so much for becoming our latest patron and sponsoring our content. It really means the world to us. Thank you so much. If anyone out there wants to help out, then there's a link in the description. Again, it means the world, truly. All right, so I want to start this with talking about where logic ends. And I want to do this by sharing a fictional but very real, like I made it up, but this is very real. This happens all the time. A conversation between myself and a client. And it goes like this. So a client says, "Why can't I sleep?" And I reply, "Insomnia happens when we give sleep a lot of attention." And the client goes, "So how do I stop thinking about sleep?" And I go, "By allowing thoughts to happen." And then the client goes, "This sounds like a paradox." And I go, "It is. It truly is a paradox." I mean, you could, of course, meet this question, how do I stop thinking? We could meet that with thoughts are messages. And the more we are willing to hear the messages, the more the brain goes, I don't need to send the messages. And the thoughts, they become fleeting again. But ultimately, there is a paradox here. You could also say, but the idea to allow thoughts to happen, isn't that also just a thought? And what happens to that thought if I let it go? Won't that? You can reach so far with logic, with education, but at some point, there is a place where logic ends. And this is the point where a lot of clients get to, where they're like, I've studied so much. I listened to all your episodes. I've read your books. I understand everything, but sleep just still isn't happening for me. And it's sort of like, that clicking, the clicking moment, the coalescing moment, the magical moment when things come together just hasn't happened yet. And clients wonder, like, what do I do now? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So again, there is a paradox here. And, another way to put it is that education is foundational. I can't stress this enough. I think in a way it is like learning and educating ourselves is the only thing that we truly can do. Like that is something we can actually do. But again, there is a place where logic ends. You can educate yourself to, you can understand everything perfectly clearly and still be struggling. And so there is a place where logic ends. And the question then, of course, becomes, so what do I do then, with quotation marks around do? Because we already said that education is, in a way, the only thing we actually can do, and only tangible thing we can do. But so what if we arrive at this place where we have all this understanding and we sort of come to the end of logic? What's next? How do we meet this? Well, that's exactly what this video is about, of course. And this is where we're going to start talking about the North Star. But before we go there, the idea for this North Star really came from the place of like kind of business and like entrepreneurship and that space. And if we can imagine a Steve Jobs, no matter what you thought of him, a genius, or like he had some character traits that he was apparently not the nicest guy, but whatever you think of him, this is just educational here. Imagine Steve Jobs at Apple. Do you think that he made sure all the thousands of employees did everything right? Did he check their emails? Did he look over their shoulder to make sure they did everything exactly the way they were supposed to? Of course he didn't. Like, that's just humanly impossible. But what he was known for and what he did was that he presented sort of a vision. This is what I would like to see happen. And then he let people find a way to make that happen. And often he's famous for having this reality distortion field. He said that, I want this to happen. And people said, that's impossible. And he said, no, I believe you can do it. I mean, that's how much he believed in people. Like, I believe you can do it. He was famous for that. And oftentimes people found a way, even when within themselves, they didn't know they had it within themselves. So, spinning off of this and going further, we can imagine what we would like ourselves as workers or employees, right? What would you think would make you do your best work? Would it be A, to be micromanaged and like surveyed and like punished and like checked, everything you did was checked, or would you like B, to sort of be given the vision, like, I think this is what we'd like to see and see happen, and you can figure out how to do it, like you use your own resources. I think pretty much all of us will say B. That's just what we like, you know. And here's the thing, our brain, our human brain, is just the same. Like the same thing applies within us. I believe that fully. So, what does this got to do with insomnia? Well, here's the thing. Oftentimes when I have clients, they see the logic of like, okay, if I stop thinking so much about this, if I don't give sleep so much attention, things will be easier for me. And then they ask me questions like, how do I do that? How can I make sure I think this? How can I make sure I don't think this? How can I make sure I'm calm? How can I make sure that, I'm not feeling this way or reacting this way? But the thing is that now we're trying to sort of micromanage. We're trying to like fix every single little detail of how our brain works. And that creates a lot of pressure and also resistance and confusion and things of that nature. So it is very tricky. And this is where the North Star comes in. Uh, what I mean with giving it a North Star is basically we can give it a big picture idea and then also the trust to figure it out. We can treat our brain like we ourselves would like to be treated. And this is basically the North Star idea. We can show the brain that this is what we would like to see happen, but then back off. Then be like, but you figure it out. You figure out the details, right? And then what are to get a little bit more practical here? What are those kind of North Stars? What are some examples of these North Stars? What can those be? Well, I put together like 3 statements. One is that sleep happens when we aren't trying to sleep, and anyone who's reached the end of logic knows this, but is maybe still trying to like make this happen, so to speak. And we can present this as a North Star idea. Sleep happens when we aren't trying to sleep, and let the brain figure out how we can arrive there. Or being kind to myself, even when I'm anxious or exhausted or not sleeping, that's really what leads out of the struggle. Kindness leads out of the struggle. But we can't force that. Again, we can give this as a North Star and let the brain figure out, what kindness means to us, and how we can be kind to ourselves. Or this one, leaving problem solving solves the problem. I often like to say that it's hard to solve a problem when problem solving is the problem we're trying to solve, which is insomnia, right? Insomnia happens because of problem solving. But how do we stop problem solving? How do we leave problem solving? But again, we can just present this as a North Star idea to the brain. When we're no longer problem solving, then there is no problem, and let the brain figure out the rest. Now, there are 2 more things I wanted to really point out here that I think are helpful and important. One of them is, I think this North Star idea really applies where logic ends. And maybe I should have said this in the beginning. I forgot that. But if you're new to the channel, then I think this is always helpful to hear about. But I think the first step for really most people is education. Because when you're really struggling, you're confused, you don't understand what's going on, and somebody says, well, just give your brain a North Star idea to let go of the struggle, it can be hard for the brain because it hasn't gotten to where logic ends. It doesn't really fully understand on a logical level that problem solving is the problem. So I think education, like doing some homework, really helps as a first step. Like we arrive, where logic ends, or close to there. Like at least have some foundational knowledge. I think that really helps, because applying this North Star idea immediately to someone who's just like new to this teaching, that can be quite tricky. And the second thing is like, I imagine a very logical, natural follow-up question here becomes, but what if my brain can't figure it out? What if I give it this North Star idea and, nothing helps? I'm still not sleeping. Well, then the follow-up question becomes, are you giving it trust? Or are you sort of trying to micromanage now? Have you fully given it trust or not? Which then leads to the question of like, okay, maybe I haven't given it fully trust, but how can I do that? Well, then maybe giving the brain a North Star can become your North Star. Maybe you can really deploy this here. Maybe you can just present to the brain that having a North Star and allowing you to figure it out is going to be my North Star. Something like that can maybe help in this situation. I hope this helped. And you found value in this teaching. And let me know, as always, in the comments what you thought. And also, if you find the teaching here helpful and valuable, and you're on your path to finding the end of logic and finding your North Star and arriving at a place of peaceful sleep, then that is wonderful, and please let us know. But if you'd like some more support, maybe you like a more curated curriculum and a more structured path to where you want to be, then please check out our programs. Head over to our website, thesleepcoachschool.com, and there are plenty of coaching options, and I hope one will fit you perfectly well. So with that said, hope to have you here soon, and thanks again for now. Bye-bye.